In this lesson, let's take a look at the directory structure of Laravel and let's analyze what are the most important folders inside Laravel. So here we have the app folder. It's really important. It basically controls the whole backend, and it's where you're going to put, for example, your controllers. Any code that you or any controller that you create is going to come in here. All your models are going to be in here. So that's a very important folder. Besides that one, we have the config folder. For example, in here you want to put like the database information. Say you have a PGSQL database, you want to put all the information here, and that's how you establish the connection. You also have many other configs. For example, the app config. Here you're going to put your app name, here, and here you're going to change this value depending on where you're working. So if you're doing it for development, you're going to put development here, and if you're going to do it in production, you're going to put production here. Also, for local development, you want this value to be true. For production developments, you want it to be false, and so forth. So another important folder would be the public folder. This is basically where your server, for example Apache or Nginx, the root folder of those web servers are going to point to public, and then the first file that is going to be executed is going to be the index.php. This is going to be the entry point for the common public user. That's why the folder is called public, and anything inside here is going to be public. Now, besides that, we have the routes folder, which contains all our routes. This is something we saw on the previous lecture, and here we're going to be adding all the different routes. For example, if we have a section called contacts in our page, we're going to add it here as contacts and then define what we want it to return. So this is the purpose of the routes folder. Besides that, we have the storage folder where all the app logs are going to be stored, and many other stuff internally to the app is being used and stored into. Now, Laravel is really powerful and lets you use a storage that not only stores locally but is connected already to AWS. Here in the file systems, you can set up, for example, AWS bucket, S3 bucket, to store all your files if you don't want to store all those log files in your server, because these log files can be really heavy because there's so many and they're being written all the time. So you might want to use a separate server to store it. But in our case, we don't have to deal with this on this tutorial. So basically, this is the structure of Laravel. You also have a test folder when you want to write automated tests. We're not going to cover testing on this course, but as you can see, it's quite simple, and you can imagine it as this being the backend code of your Laravel application, and then the rest depends on which folder you're using it as. So now that we know the directory structure, on the next lecture we're going to delve into more of writing our own routes and writing our own views and controllers and models. Now that we understand the structure of Laravel, we don't really change values on this file. I was explaining it so that you could understand the real structure of where these variables are declared, but for putting it in practice, you would want to put it on your .env file, because this is the file that is going to be different per environment, and it's normally a file that is git ignored and all that stuff. So here is where you want to put things like app debug equals to true and app environment equals to local, not development, it's local, the correct keyword. And then here you can change the app name and all that stuff. Also, the same thing applies with the database connections. You might want to put it here in the .env file, But right now, we're not really focusing on where we should put it. We're just trying to explain the structure, and more ahead in the lectures, when we actually will fill these values in, we'll use it more as a practice. Thank you so much.